Hey, meaningful movers. Welcome back to Moving With Me, the podcast where actions have meaning, words have meaning, and we open up the conversations to discover what's your next move. I'm your host, Krystal. In today's episode, we are going to talk about rediscovery in a profound way that will seem almost magical. Perhaps it is. But y'all know how it is and what we do. We need to set that theme, so let's go ahead and do that. The word of the day is transformation. This is the act of changing, a metamorphosis of sorts, in a way that liberates you from your fears and letting go of those beliefs and social constructs that no longer serve you. Here's a consideration. You came into the world a true, whole, authentic being. The transformation just happened in reverse. It's not a 180, but a 360. You are just returning home. Well, that's enough of me talking. How about we introduce our guests? And there's no one better to do that than themselves. Chris and Wanda, why don't you give the people a bit of background about yourself and what you're going to share with us today?
Good morning. Thank you for having us. My name is Wanda Webster. I am an educational therapist and have written several social emotional programs. Some of them were being taught in like 7 different countries at one point. So This is a passion of mine to help people reach their full potential. I do that working with children, but we also have a program working with adults. And Christopher was the impetus for me even starting this program, as he has 24 years of sobriety. So Christopher?
Yeah, my name is Christopher Mack, and right now I am currently a senior community outreach worker for a medical clinic in the downtown Skid Row area. My journey for recovery started in the year 2000 when I used substance as a coping mechanism for life.
Okay. Well, let me tell you this. Congratulations on where you are today and what you have accomplished. I think that's in order, first and foremost. I'm interested in the premise of your story. This was polygamist versus monogamist. What happened there? How'd that
happen? We actually met in a workshop, a hands-on healing workshop. I told her, I said, you're an overachiever. She was trying to get me to hold my hand a certain way. I had taken the class before, and I said, man, please don't do that. And she says, why are you so mean? I said, I'm not mean. I said, I'm just letting you know. I already, know some of this stuff you're trying to show me. So I went over her house, and I said, well, we're going to practice. And then we started seeing each other. I told her I was a polygamist by nature, so I wouldn't be, accused of cheating if I was seeing somebody else. And so she said, that doesn't work for me. I said, well, okay, so if that doesn't work for you, I said, well, what works for you? She said she's looking for a monogamous relationship. I said, I don't know if I can do that. From there, we started an agreement. She said, why don't you try it for 30 days? I said, okay, fine. So when I was trying it for 30 days, I asked Spirit, what am I going to get out of this? And it said, you're going to get spiritual growth and development. And that was it. I had a bargaining chip. I had something that was of value for me. That seemed to be intriguing. And now here we are 15 years later.
16 years in December. So
let's clarify that.
Let's clarify that. I said, just be my 30-day boyfriend. I didn't know if it would last longer than a month. I had no expectation. So we tried it, and then we re-upped the agreement every month. And then pretty soon every month turned into every 6 months. And then every year. And then after a point, it was, okay, we're in this. This works.
Isn't that every improvement journey is to set small milestones? And then as you go along and you start to develop that level of maturity and growth, and it starts to latch onto you, that you start to, let's up the ante on this and see if we can do it further and further. And lo and behold, 16 years later, we're still in this thing together. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Now, you guys mentioned the agreement. What is that? That was the agreement, right? Was the let's try for 30 days, 60 days, or was the agreement more about what am I getting out of this?
I think the agreement is the terms of engagement. How are we going to treat each other? How are we going to be with each other? And that becomes the agreement. And so we're able to talk about it. One of the agreements is I'm not going to talk harsh to you, and I don't expect for you to talk harsh to me. I'm able to call you on those things that are uncomfortable for me. Oh, that made me feel uncomfortable. and leave it up to the other person to make the course correction. Normally, if she told me something that made her uncomfortable, I said, I will do it. It's not about trying. It's about saying, okay, that makes you uncomfortable. I will not do that again. It didn't take a whole lot of practice. It just took the understanding that, that made you uncomfortable. And discomfort was one of the things that I did not like doing to her. If she was uncomfortable with something I did, I said, oh, okay, I don't want to do that. And I didn't do it.
Oh my God, that is so beautiful. And I am saying that because I don't hear that often. Let me just say it like that. You don't hear when someone says, I'm uncomfortable with something else, you always hear the other person trying to almost convince them that they should accept them the way that they are, that what is uncomfortable, make it comfortable, versus them actually having to put the effort to invest in that person, right? And solidify the level of communication. It's just, I feel valued this way. I feel heard like this. That is a triggering mechanism, whether I'm working on it or not. That's a part of me of what I consider respect. That's what I consider of being valued. And that's good that you put the effort in. And it almost didn't sound like it was effort, to be quite frank with you. It was like, no, she's worth it.
Yes and no. There's a dynamic that happens in any relationship and in our work. And that dynamic has a basis of certain, what would you call it? The 5 C's of relationship principles.
There's 5 C's. Principles before personality is what I heard in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that works. And so in order to have a healthy relationship, there are 5 C's that must be in action. And those C's are dynamic. They're not linear. So the first C would be commitment. The next one would be communications, cooperation, consideration, and compromise. Those 5 C's will help to guide and direct the relationship because, number one, we're committed. So I'm in your company, you're in my company, that's it. That gives us a place for communications is our commitment. And so the communication has to have a balance. It has to have a place of consideration for one another. And there has to be those times that you compromise, I compromise. I'm not going to ask you to compromise and never me compromise. It has to be a balance in that. So with the 5 C's, we're talking about a healthy relationship. And you can always see when one of those C's are out of the relationship, the dysfunction and the discord. We're using those as a model for engagement. When you're in a relationship, there's always going to be this constant engagement. But it never should be me versus you. There should always be a consideration for the commitment that you both have made. And so the 5 C's are for a healthy relationship.
Yeah. Compliment over competition. I like that. I want to move into recovery and your authentic self. Discover and recover. Tell me all about all that good stuff about embracing who you are and the empowerment involved in that.
The idea is that incidents, situations, and conditions, people seem to take those on and then they want to build their identity based upon those things. But those are just things. They're not the individual. Maybe the basis of our existence is that they were most beautiful, wonderful creations. And we don't live up to it because we get stuck in conditions and situations that we have had. And so when we start to live our lives through the lens of our failures and our successes and all of those other things, those things that are not us, and we're just like, what is pure potential? So we're something much more than what has happened to us. And so we have to start rearranging that. Or no, we have to start disseminating it and discarding it so that we can blossom, so that we can transform into that beauty that we are. And you have to start in a place of neutrality. You have to start in a place of where all of those happenstances from the past are no longer haunts for the future.
Good. Okay. So when you spoke a little bit about recovery, I'm looking at this from based off of what you just said just now. There's recovery from obviously substance abuse, but there's also recovery from either bad behavior, false beliefs, perhaps traumatic events that have occurred and all those things. What is recovery all about?
Recovery, if I was to go and just be generic, is getting back that which was lost. But I think that which was lost is the truth of who you are. There is a truth and an essence to our being. it's powerful and dynamic, but we don't have access to it if we have all of that other stuff piled up on it. You can't see the bottom of the clothes hamper when you have dirty clothes.
Okay. That's good. I like that.
Yeah. Me too. I'm like trying to not pause too often, because just to ponder that, just to have that statement sit on myself for a minute, because it just applies to so many different things that I have gone through in my life as I was uncovering the laundry, if you will, and then the washing and wearing them, folding them, and all of those things. It's so interesting.
We're all recovering from something, aren't we?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like this. I'm going to use this as an example. Singing is a natural occurrence in the human experience, but we've relegated it to entertainment. And so we don't think that we can sing. And so when we talk about recovery, if you just put it into a little pigeonhole and said, oh, that's because of substance use. No, 12 steps evolved from alcoholism all the way into gamblers and overeaters and all of those other things. So which means that there is this false notion of who I am running me. And so the things that we get are the events, are the things that we get involved in. They can become the impetus of addiction because we're trying to make ourselves feel something, be something, do something. But when we don't realize that we already are. And that which we already are is beautiful, magnificent, just awesome.
And I wonder where we lost that along the way. You mentioned stuck. How do you get unstuck? Is there an alignment of beliefs and thoughts and projection and perception involved in that?
Introspection is the key. Everything is introspection. Sometimes we get that through meditation, sometimes through journaling, sometimes other people pointing out things to us that we weren't aware of. And then it takes a level of honesty to really, before we can change anything, we have to become aware of it. Once we're aware of it, it's almost impossible to go back to the old way. But that's the very first step of it all, awareness and honesty. Learning how to love ourselves and our shadow side. We all have this shadow dark side to ourselves. Old patterns that we used as a child, we didn't know any better. Coping mechanisms that we've outgrown, they don't work for us anymore. We don't need them anymore. And if we don't become aware of them, we cannot change them.
And so we're always looking for this way of coping with just being here. And so sometimes it takes the form of substance. Sometimes it takes the form of codependency. Anything not for me to be responsible for myself.
Yeah. As soon as you said, when something is brought to our attention, the first thing that I was thinking of was the reaction. It's almost either rejection or defensive. That process of just awareness can be extremely, almost traumatic in itself. It's a life-changing event that I think takes, I don't know, maybe the longest to accept what someone else has said about you before you have accepted yourself about it. Because I can admit something about myself, and it's so easy for me to pay attention to that and start to analyze it and start the introspection. But if someone else points that out to me before I've had that chance to do the introspection and reflection, it may take me longer because I'm now on a mission. I've shifted my focus to debunk them, to prove them wrong.
Right.
What do y'all think about that? Tell me what you think about it. I don't know.
You're right. If the aha moment is not in the person, of course there's resistance, there's rebellion, there's rejection, all of that. Those are the things that become mechanisms in operation. When it says know thyself, that's a nice point. Know thyself, to be true to thyself, to thine own self be true. But if you don't know yourself, you are not the incidents and the things that have happened to you. That's not who you are. And most of the time, people are identifying with the past failures, the past incidents, and the horrific thing that has happened to me. And that's why we're talking about trauma. When we start talking about this is what's driving me, this is the driving force, is that trauma. But it becomes an undercurrent, something that motivates me to do things that are not healthy or wholesome. Let's get rid of right and wrong, good and bad. Let's talk about what is healthy or what is unhealthy. What causes me to thrive?
We have found that the question becomes the flashlight in the dark halls of your mind. It's more gentle. is to pose a question to someone.
To someone's self.
And to oneself.
To
Absolutely.
Question. You have to question yourself because you can react. And as you begin to mature, you say, maybe I didn't do that to the best of, the relationship or the best of that situation. Maybe I was too hard. Now that's autocorrect. What's the best correction? The one that I do for myself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what happens when I start to get rid of stuff, I create capacity. Mm-hmm. Well, what is capacity? Capacity means that I create space for my going forward. Now I have this space that I can put anything in that space and let it be wholesome. Let it be healthy.
For sure. I think you went down this list of bullets and phases that we talked about before in relation to this particular topic. You mentioned refinement, responsibility, and accountability. Is it always in that order?
Let's say like this. Life is dynamic. That we do understand. So nothing is linear. If you try to do it linear, you won't be as successful in your aha moment, in that burst of ideas, in that burst of energetic magic, So, so when we talk about those things, those are dynamic things for the individual.
Yeah.
We're talking about things that the individual can use. Nobody is me. Don't want nobody to be me. Mm-hmm. That's why the introspection and reflection. Know thyself. Be true to thyself. But make sure that the self that you're being true to is starting from a neutral place and not from a place of influence.
Yeah.
I've been influenced by my bad behavior to be a bad character actor. That's how you get a bad actor on a bad day in a B movie.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So
that's actually one of the points in the book, The Journey Within.
You guys wrote, 2 books?
2 books, yes.
Okay. The first book is Journey Within, Taking Out the Garbage. And that's focused purely on reflection. Yes?
Introspection and reflection.
Okay.
Hopefully it creates the condition in the individual. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the person is going to get out of the book, but a lot of the material in that book came as a dynamics in recovery. This happens without my permission. This is the thing that is dynamic in it. You become aware of something. And once you become aware of something, you begin to have ownership of something that is free.
Yeah.
That's where responsibility, that's where accountability starts to take hold. Now you can use those as dynamic working mechanisms in your own behavior. Come on.
Very true. Very true. Before we move to your second book, I think it's also important that it's called practice because it's so repetitive. We get challenged daily in and out where we have to turn away from where we were because we could easily go back there. And I think it's important to recognize these signals, these yellow flags in these areas because for me, when I finally got to this point where I'm like, oh my God, I figured it out. Everything just aligned and I realized it. I think one time something happened and I got anxious all over again. And I got really upset at myself because I was like, I thought I was done with this. And I didn't factor in that, well, no, these challenges are always going to be there for you. And it's important to have that self-trust, that self-awareness, and that accountability and responsibility, like you were just mentioning there, to overcome all of those items that try to test you. So I think that was a really good point because I think some people, as soon as they make it out, they think that they're almost superhuman and they can have this like armor of adamantium that anytime any of that negativity stuff that I threw away, it's just going to bounce right back off because I'm just cured. I'm just no longer vulnerable to that. But the truth is that, yeah, you're going to kind of keep coming forward with those different challenges. And you have to continually remind yourself, this is who I am now. This is who I am now. And I'm not going to take or allow any of those negative actions, the B cast member or whatever else, come into my space of peace. I'm going to be that armor and the deflection against that.
Again, that comes back to being aware of your strengths, limitations,
and
weaknesses. And constantly doing it. We all have that. We have to become aware of that and become aware of what snags us in life, what causes us to react. And where does that come from? Is it purely in the present moment, or is there something from our past that we need to address and attempt to heal?
I like that. But at the same time, as she was talking, I was thinking about Isabel's story. But what I was also thinking about was it's like that anxiety may be itself, but there is a new you. And the new you has tools to deal with the anxiety. Oh, I see that. However, the one thing that you must consider and factor in is what is your balance? And so when you start to understand what your balance is, you always can get to that place. The balance is the place where the car is in neutral and nothing is being driven forward or in reverse. It's just there. And sometimes we learn how to just be there. And in that place, there is a point of observation where you can look 360 degrees.
Yeah.
That's old stuff. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And that will turn off that spigot of despair. That's old stuff.
Yeah.
Just that.
I like what you said too, Wanda. You have to determine if it's in the present or the past, because we can mistake present challenges or our current present state with a previous incident that happened and mistake that for that. That's really good.
Yes.
That does take an enormous amount of reflection and accountability, strength and empowerment to do that. That's great. Y'all got some good messages going on.
That's one of the things about our work.
Yeah.
It's not about us. It's about the individual being empowered. That's the one that can be his authentic self. But you always have to remember, all we have are suggestions.
Yeah.
Because the minute somebody thinks you're trying to tell them something, resistance and rebellion becomes the red flag. And now you have a raging bull.
Okay, with the letters, what you doing? Oh my gosh. Now you mentioned real quickly Isabel's Starry Night, The Magical Quest for Alchemy. That's second book. This is the coming of age story. Tell us about that one.
Well, the idea for this book started coming to me in dreams, and I resisted it for 2 years by saying, I can't write a fictional story. I'm not good enough. And the dreams just got more every night, and throughout the day, I'd see the vision of the book. Finally, I just had to start writing it. It was to show my guides, guardians, whomever, my higher self was just saying that people need to see, well, what does that look like? Somebody that's living by principles, somebody that has introspection at the end of the day and takes responsibility for her part in something. And so it's just a fun, whimsical little story of her path to coming of age, but hopefully with something that we can all relate to.
Is it a child-appropriate book? Like, what would be the range? Because I'm thinking of my daughter right now.
It is. It is. It's written probably at a 7th grade level. There are no swear words. Keep it clean. I can't think of anything else in there that would be inappropriate. Yes.
Fantastic. I think I'm going to get it for my baby girl.
When I looked at the book, I said, but this is about white folk. and I told her, I said, I couldn't identify with the white people. And I said, this is about white folk. And then I realized that we live in a society that doesn't have a rite of passage. Because Isabel is moving from that college age to moving out of her house. There was not this rite of passage that in my culture, I grew up in Los Angeles, and I didn't see the rite of passage. But that was distinct to show moving from this place of uncertain adolescence to confident adult. I said, oh, wow, that could go for anybody. The rite of passage, things that we go through that makes us adults, the things that help us to be mature, the things that help us to make social, emotional, intelligent decisions. So she captured it very well. So it's no longer about white folk.
As said, Chris's stamp. Approval. Okay. So 2 things before we head out here. The listeners can go to your website to download the first chapter of which book?
Yes, they can. Dynamicsofrecovery.com. You can download the first chapter to The Journey Within.
Okay. And that book is organized like a workbook. It has little activities in it, correct?
Journaling sections, questions that we pose for your reflection, hopefully inspiration from those questions. Yes.
Fantastic. I love that, the recap and the summary and actually applying what you've learned into practice and into your everyday life. So I think that's great. Great actions on y'all there. So I don't even know why I'm going to ask this, but Chris and Wanda, do y'all have any golden nuggets you want to give the people and add some ketchup just to recap?
Find the balance to where you have peace and freedom. If you know what those things are, find the balance that you feel in your body to be balanced and use that as a place of refuge. Use that as a place to go.
Thank you. Wanda, you got something?
I would say look to what snags you in life and don't be afraid to look within and start taking responsibility and accept who you are, the good, the bad, the ugly as well. It's so easy to point our fingers out and blame whatever's happening out there on someone, some situation, but just turn that finger back toward yourself and be gentle with yourself when you do it.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's the episode today. Have you noticed you have strayed from who you once were? Became enthralled in popularity and the devices that manipulate reality. Don't get me wrong, change is good as we gain further insight and experience to learn, grow, teach, and share. We either become better versions of ourselves or we lose touch with reality. That's why I appreciate Chris and Wanda for sharing their stories and principles for reflecting and introspecting on who we want to be and allowing ourselves to acknowledge the path that we should be on versus the one we are on. It's never too late to reach that North Star. What part of Chris and Wanda's episode did you relate to the most? Share your stories and perspectives. I love it all, and so will someone else. Before I let you go, Chris and Wanda, why don't you go ahead and remind the people who you are, where they can find your resources or reach out to you.
Dynamicsofrecovery.com will give you YouTube videos, links to our books on Amazon. If you do order, please leave a nice review on Amazon. It helps us. And Christopher?
And if you order, use the material. I think my information is in there.
Yes.
You can always get in touch with me. I take phone calls. I'm not a good texter or emailer, but I am open for discussion. And you are your own best advocate.
Happy journeying.
And loving yourself is kind of like, once you learn how to love yourself, you can love others.
Mm-hmm.
Another great ending. I'll make sure to include all of Chris and Wanda's resources and connections in the episode description, as well as on my website's resources page, movingwithmeaning.com. Make sure you guys subscribe to the show, Moving With Meaning, the podcast, and tap that alert bell so you know when these episodes drop. I'm on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music. Please share, like, repost, and follow. Tag someone. We are creating a community. Quick housekeeping before you go. Follow me on Instagram at movingwithmeaning82 and on Pinterest at Arthur KB Clark. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn. I do dabble in TikTok at Krystal B. Clark. My Etsy store has some handy-dandy digital downloads. Lastly, run over to my YouTube channel and have a look. Links are in the episode. Alrighty, I'm Krystal on Moving with Meaning, the podcast, reminding you to take it one step at a time. All moves have meaning. Check y'all later.